Alright guys, I've got some big news today. Now I will tell you as much as I'm allowed to tell you at the end of this video and give you all the details, but the long and short of it is I'm moving from Arizona to Tennessee. And what that means is I have to sell the shop, the house, the compound, and almost all of my projects. I'm keeping one project vehicle and that's it. I'm taking the wife and kids, but pretty much everything else is going up for sale. So I decided the best way to sell them is to tell you guys this is what's for sale. I'll put the price on it, and then if you want it, you can buy it. If you live in the valley, anywhere in the Phoenix area, I can deliver it on a trailer, no problem. If you're outside of the Phoenix area, I can try and coordinate shipping and help you out with that as best I can. Some of them are gonna go on eBay, some of them I'm just telling you guys about, and then if nobody buys them, I'll put them up on Craigslist or OfferUp or whatever. But let's just jump right into it. Let's take a look at the vehicles, and you guys can decide if you want anything. Guys, I am not gonna miss this heat. As you can see, I've got my Arizona hazmat suit on. Let's just jump right into the first vehicle here. All right guys, first off, we have a 1962 Grumman Olson van. Now somebody has done the hard work of going ahead and stripping the paint and then doing a little bit of sanding. There's still some scratches that are gonna have to come out, but overall, it's in pretty good shape. Now, if you watch my other Grumman build, you'll know that these are 11 gauge walls. They are unbelievably thick. Let me get this door open. Now there's no motor transmission in it. I was going to put the motor and tranny from a Crown Vic, which you will see later, into it, but of course that job has been scrapped. It has a couple of sunroofs. Obviously it's all aluminum, so there's no rust. There's doors on both sides, which is very cool. What else? This is not the one with the curved glass, so the nice thing is it's easier to find and make glass for it, but pretty straightforward. It's in good shape. Now the only issue I saw on this, there is a little bit of rust on this part here, and then there's a little surface rust on some of the steel components underneath. Let me get the camera down here. I do think it was a Southwest vehicle. For most of its life, it is in good shape. Now the cost for this is $5,000. This is not actually mine. This is for a client of mine. So if you make an offer on this, I'll pass it on to them and then let you know. All right, moving on. Guys, this is Roosevelt. This is a 1930 Ford Model A. This particular one was built by Murray. You can tell because of the nice little window arch here. Now the story behind this is pretty interesting. It was, let's see if I get this right. It was a woman who my wife worked with, whose brother passed away, and I purchased this from their estate. Now, as far as I can tell from the documents, he brought this to Arizona from, I believe it was Minneapolis or somewhere around there in the early 60s. In 1976-ish, he converted it to run on propane. So the carburetor's been modified with the propane. I'll show you that in a second. And then he added these two tanks on the rear. Now I'm gonna ask a couple guys I know who know more about Model A's than I do if that's the only thing that is not original, but as far as I can tell, that's the only modifications made. Now the guy was a bit of a prepper who had it, and he wanted it to run on propane because of the oil embargo. So I think it was 76, might be a little bit after that. I don't have the dates exactly right because all happened before I was born. But it is in really, really good shape, with the exception of, because this has the open roof, I ended up putting this tarp on it, and then I had, let me show you in here. I put these crossbars that are rolled up a little bit to make sure the water rolls off. It has had some water damage in here previously. So you can see it's a little bit beat up, it's gotten wet, it's dried out. Luckily, it doesn't seem to be rotting too bad. As far as I can tell, it's all the original wood and everything like that. Now, I was going to get this running and do a first start video. I was really excited about that. And then I was gonna sell it to somebody else. I had no plans on keeping this because I would want to chop this up too much. I'd probably get rid of the fenders and I'd probably put a different motor in, all kinds of terrible things, and it is just too pristine to mess with like that. Now, one thing I want to say that I think is true, you guys, I'm sure somebody out there will correct me if I'm wrong, this is the original paint. From everyone I've talked to, this is original. The reason that the hood looks this way is these were actually dipped in the paint, and then this still has the original brush marks. And I didn't believe the first person that told me that, thinking there's just no way that they weren't spraying cars by 1930. And I Googled it, and it turns out that that sprayer wasn't even invented until years after this. So they were brushing these cars, which is just fascinating to me. Now, The motor turns freely. The axle in the rear, as far as I can tell, I think because it's been sitting for so long, there's been a little bit of rust on the gears on the top, and so as it rotates, you can feel it binding up just a little bit. I've got a couple of spare axles, boxes of Model A parts. You can see it's got multiple tires. I have this fender, and then I was told this was a Sears Roebuck option for the rear, just like a little storage case. I'm not sure if that's true or not. Now the cost for this is $4,500. That's what I'm trying to get out of this. I would really prefer that it goes to somebody that's going to keep it as close to original as possible. But I do understand that these are not worth very much in their original form. And so I suppose if it's going to get cut, that's still better than it just rotting away somewhere. All right, so that's the Model A. Moving on. So here's that Model A motor. Not a lot to these things. Nice little flathead 4-cylinder. I kind of like these old style distributors where they've got the wires running on the inside and then they're just kind of clipped in. I think that's neat. Same thing with the tops of the spark plugs. So you kind of unscrew them and put those little tabs on. Kind of a funky little setup. Ooh guys, a 1955 Ford F100. And this is not a 53 that they put a 55 grill on it. It's not a 54, this is a 55. I love this truck. Now you can see it's been modified with this super sweet bumper setup here. I have to imagine that this happened at the same time as the paint. I'm guessing the 1970s, because people in the 70s would do things like putting wood bumpers on here. Now what's cool about this truck is that this was special ordered from the factory in Raven Black with a 292 Y block and a 4-speed synchro mesh. So I'll post how the VIN decodes up here so that you guys can see, but I was just so excited to decode the VIN and see that this was a hot rod when it rolled off the lot. Someone walked in and said, give me the biggest motor, give me the coolest transmission, and make it Raven Black, and that is just awesome. Now I was going to build this for a client of mine up in Canada, and I had been waiting for the absolute perfect client. I had a ton of people that wanted me to build it, but they all wanted me to do something stupid. I had one guy who wanted me to paint it this horrible red color for some baseball team, and I said, no thank you. I said, this thing has got to stay black. So, well, stay, now it's white, but it's got to turn back to black. And I really wanted to put a good transmission in it, a manual, to keep it with its hot rod roots, but the guy wanted the LS9 crate motor from GM with the 8-speed automatic and 630 horsepower, and I said, yes, I will certainly do that. But unfortunately, Corona has ruined things for a lot of us, and we are no longer doing that, so now it is yours to buy. Now inside you can still see the original black paint. It's in good shape. Now, if you're an enthusiast, you're gonna want me to show you these cab corners, and look at these beauties. Look at this. You can even see the two pieces of steel where they're pinched together. I mean, this is as close to pristine as possible. I went through this whole body with a fine-tooth comb, and the only bodywork that I can find is this inner fender. I'm gonna send the camera in there so you can take a look. You can see it's had a little bit, let me get my head in there so I can see. You can see it's had a little bit of Bondo work in the front. Nothing too terrible, but wanted to make you aware of that. It will not need cab corners. Let me get you a shot from under here. Nice, right? So I think that this would be a perfect candidate to not even do a frame swap. You know, I don't think it's worth doing a TCI frame because this thing is just so nice. I mean, look, it even still has the rubber bushings for the dog bones. You can see inside here, it's just real good shape. This is it, a little bit of rust right in the corner, and then let me show you on the bottom here. Just super clean. No motor transmission, that's long gone. I paid $5,000 for this. Now some of you are going to be screaming at me telling me that that's crazy. If you think that's crazy, you've never rebuilt one of these, because if you need to do a new fender or a hood or a front end, you are just SOL if you don't have the factory parts. You are going to spend so much time making the aftermarket parts work that it just ends up not being cost effective. Now look at the turn signals here. Look at how these made up. I mean, this is just perfect. The aftermarket ones are such a pain that I never end up using them. I shave them down, I shave the bumper, and then I do these little tiny turn signals. I think they look really good. Obviously on this one I was going to keep it the same. I just love this truck. She's a beauty. Let me get this hood open and show you. So here it is inside. You can see inner fenders, practically perfect shape. All right, moving on here. This is a 1962, I think, International Metro. I do have a good title for it, so if it's not a 62, I'll put that right here. It is basically complete, and as far as I can tell, it's never really been modified. Like, this isn't layer after layer of paint. I found zero Bondo across the whole thing. Now there's some damage. You see the fender's a little dinged up and just little bits here. Nothing too bad. A little crinkled, just a little right there. Overall, it's in really good shape. I was gonna build this into another mobile bar again, same as the Grumman. The motor here, it's got a couple of these cool guy. Ooh, hot hubcaps. Hot. All right. Golly, I forget what this thing is called. It's the International Inline 6. It's the blue top. Blue Diamond or something they called this. This thing is totally complete and it spins. So I was going to do a first start on this. I thought that would be a cool video, but again, have to sell it. I think that some hippies turned this into an RV in the 60s. I think that was a poop line out. I think they had a little toilet or something right there. Probably got nice and stinky. The only thing that I thought was going to be super annoying was in the back here, presumably so they could haul wood or something stupid like that. They decided to cut a little pass through here, so that's a little bit annoying. Also, these windows might be frustrating to remove. This is $3,200. If you've built these before, you'll know that that is a good deal because they are really hard to find, this rust-free. So let me know if you guys want this. Guys, don't even ask about this. This is the 1949 Chevy 1.5 ton. This has been in my family since it was brand new. I've got this thing in Colorado from my great uncle who was ready to scrap it, and I heard that he was scrapping it from my grandfather, and I said, no, hold it. I'll pay you whatever the scrap guy would, which was 800 bucks. So I mailed him a check for $800, waited for a good time in his farming schedule to allow me to get in there, and I brought it home. This is a 1959 F100 short bed frame. This was a one owner truck that I got out of Northern California. I forget the size of this motor. It's just before the 300. I don't know if it's a 240 or 260. I can't remember. That's obviously scrap. The plan is going to be to put the Ford chassis underneath the Chevy chassis. This is the one project that I'm bringing with me. I really like the Ford chassis. I like the 9-inch. I like the short bed, all that. It's going to be a conversion that not everyone's going to love, but I wanted to do something to get that truck on the road and keep it as simple as possible. So that one's sticking with me. Don't ask about it. Moving on. Guys, my brain is cooking inside my skull. I am not going to miss this heat. It's 76 degrees in Tennessee right now. The wife is over there house hunting. 76 degrees and cloudy. I can't wait. I can't wait. Forky, my forklift. I love this thing. Now, I never got the chance to replace this main seal, and that's what it needs. It needs the main seal replaced, and the fluid that I put into it, it was something light, like a 10 weight or a 30 weight. And I heard from more than a couple people who run these in Arizona, and they said you have got to put at least a 40 weight, even up to a 90 weight for the hydraulic system. So it needs the hydraulic system flushed. It needs a new main seal. I'm going to sell this for $4,200. That's about what I've got into it. It's got the Continental flathead in it. Runs great, absolutely flawless. Love this thing. It starts up, runs great every time. When it's cold, it'll lift about 5,000 pounds. It's rated at 8,000 pounds, but again, needs that new seal. When it gets really hot, it'll only lift about 3,000 pounds. So I don't really have a strong desire to spend too much time fixing this because, quite frankly, I don't have the time. So I'm going to sell this to somebody at a good deal, 4,200 bucks. If you're in the valley, let me know. I'm not going to sell this until everything else is off the property. This is going to be the last thing I sell because I'm going to be using it right up until the day I leave. So let me know. All right, guys, up next, 1962 Scout 80. Now, it looks pretty terrible right now. I'll give you that. I had it sandblasted, and when it was sandblasted, I ran into the same problem I've ran into a bunch of times in my life. Somebody who had no business restoring cars was trying to fix this up, and they didn't know how to weld, so what they did was they just riveted in a bunch of stupid patches like a moron. And my apologies if you do that and you take offense to the term moron, but that's just not appropriate. And you can see how thick the Bondo was by this nice little spot here. It would have warped the steel to continue, so they didn't even finish scraping that all away. It's still a really good body. I have all the other parts for it. So I've got the hood, it's in great shape. The fenders are in great shape. It is gonna need a decent amount of rust repair. The rockers here, the plate here, obviously stuff like that. The X's that are almost always rusted out, I guess not over here, but just the one over there. Those are in rough shape. I don't have the frame for it anymore. I was gonna get a little crazy with this. I was gonna put a Corvette C5 chassis underneath and keep that, you know, torque tube running down the middle, and then basically build a roll cage around it and turn it into a low little race car. I thought that would have been absolutely awesome. The wheelbase isn't far off. I was probably gonna have to modify the torque tube, but I wanted this done so bad. I wanted to be ripping this thing around tracks with the windshield down and a nice little roll cage, but sadly, that's not going to happen. Gosh, I'm not sure what I'm going to ask for this. I'll just go ahead and put the amount down there, what I'm thinking, and then let me show you the rest of the body parts for it. All right, guys, I may have spoken too soon about being able to show you everything. You see, I've got the windshield there, I've got the fenders there, but it is pretty jam-packed. The grill is in really good shape. Seats, pretty good. All the headlight buckets and all that. That's it for the Scout. All right, guys, what's next is a 2006 Crown Victoria Police Interceptor. Now this one I believe was with the California Highway Patrol. Oh gosh, I don't know the mileage. I'll figure it out and then I'll put it here. I think it's 142 or 158. I can't remember which one's which. Now this car does not have a title, but I took it to my title lady and she ran the VIN number and said nothing is stolen and that I could get a bonded title for it, but it would be about $400. Now what I was going to do with this was I was going to take the engine and transmission and put it into the Grumman over there so that it would be a good service vehicle with a reliable engine, and then I was going to take the front end and put the front end on the 59 chassis so that I would then have good suspension on my personal truck. That was the plan. Now before I disassemble any of these, the first thing I do is, those of you who have watched this know, send in an oil sample to Blackstone Labs. Now I have the oil sample report on this. It came back very good. The transmission fluid looks good. I drove it here about a year ago and it was fine, so I have no reason to believe that there's any issues at all. I did have to steal the computer from this to put together Fugly Miles. I also stole the mass air sensor. So right now I took the trophy truck's computer and I plugged it back in just so I could park it here and then show you guys running. I'll show that to you in a second here. But it's going to need a new Police Interceptor computer and a mass air sensor. I've got the old one from the trophy truck that I can throw in, but it doesn't run off of that one. So if you want to rewire it to run on that, that's fine. But if you remember, the P71s have a larger mass air sensor that gives them an 11 horsepower increase. So this is $700. Like I said, you're gonna need a computer. If you want to buy the computer from me, then it's gonna be $800. That way I can buy a replacement computer for the trophy truck. Oh, here's a video of it running. There she is. No noises, no issues. Fluids all look good. All right, guys, what's next is the 1976 Citroen deux Chevaux. I think I pronounced that right. Now I did a video series on this, so most of you are probably familiar with this. I really liked how that series came out. It started off as a non-running vehicle and then just kind of went through it, bing bang boom, all the way through. The fuel system's been completely replaced all the way from the pickup to the fuel lines to the new carburetor. The ignition's been upgraded to an electronic ignition, new ignition coil, new plugs, new wires. The interior, my absolute favorite thing on this. I love how the seats came out. So some of you guys know Richard, my upholsterer. Man, he tracked down this just beautiful plaid color and then a really close matching like a cream marine vinyl. Now with the instructions that I gave him, I said I wanted this thing to look like a picnic blanket material, and boy, he just knocked it out of the park. Just a really funky little cool vehicle. I replaced door panels, a few little things, switches, things like that that were just broken. The top is all new. It's running, it's driving, it's an awesome little car. The only problem with it is it does have kind of an erratic idle. So before I pulled it out here, I want to show you guys that in the shop. That was the only thing that I was still just slightly tinkering with before I was planning on listing it. I was hoping to sell this at Barrett Jackson. I thought it would do really well there. I thought honestly it would probably go for 10 to 12, give or take, but because it does need a little bit of work fine-tuning that idle, and should go to somebody who knows a little bit more about these French cars than I do, I figured I'd just put it up on eBay. I'm gonna start the bidding, I think, at $5,000, and we'll just see where it goes. But boy, it'll be cool for somebody to have one of these, because you just do not see that many of these in the States. Guys, here it is running. You can hear it's got that little bit of an erratic idle. When it gets hot, it gets a little bit high. When it gets cooler, it gets a little bit low, a little dusty. But that's the idle issue. But you can see it runs fine. It's able to be driven around, no problem. I really think that it's a leak on the intake manifold. And boy, I looked all over for it. I was using propane all the way around all of the gasket seals, and I wasn't getting anywhere with it. But I hooked up the O2 sensor to the exhaust, and when I did that, it did look like it was running a little bit lean. And I talked to some guys that know these vehicles a little bit better than me, and they were saying that it's very common to have a leak that's difficult to find on like the inside. And maybe the propane just wasn't making it in there, or maybe the cooling fan was blowing away the propane before it had a chance to raise the idle and let me diagnose it. So that's the mechanical issue. All right, guys, the vehicle that needs no introduction, Fugly Miles. The weird looking trophy wagon made from the Crown Vic. Now, almost all of you are well aware of this vehicle. I'm gonna hop in the garage and then tell you guys what I think we should do with this, but I would love to get your opinion, because I kind of feel like this vehicle is everyone's, because you guys have been just so cool at helping me get this all finished. So I would just love it if we could decide together what we should do with this. So let's hop in the garage and get out of this heat. Alright guys, before we talk about what to do with Fugly Miles, I wanted to mention that I'm also selling my inflatable paint booth. Now that, I think I bought it for $2,200, I think. I'm asking $1,000 or best offer. It still works great. It's 13 feet tall, 16 feet wide, and 30 feet long. Alright guys, Fugly Miles. This is what I think we should do with it. So it still needs new coils because they're a little bit too soft. I have those new coils. It still needs those hinged doors with the window netting. It was pretty overwhelming. That's what everybody said that they wanted to see. I think it would make it look cooler. It would definitely make it safer with the window nets. So I was trying to figure out how it can still get done in a manner that you guys can still see it without me having the time to do it. Because I don't think I have the time to, I definitely don't have the time to do it before I leave for Tennessee. And I don't know how long it's going to take for me to get set up and be able to work on it in Tennessee. So my best bet, one of my best friends in the whole world who I've known since he was 1, is Jeff. He's the guy that sold me that 1/2-inch hole punch. He's also helped me build a couple vehicles. He's helped me do some roll cages. He helped me build that pizza truck that lives in Chicago. Overall, he's a phenomenal welder. He's a really good fabricator. The only thing that I'm better than him at is the mechanical bits and some of the electronic stuff. He really hates the electronics. Now he's currently racing a Volkswagen Beetle in an off-road race class, and he's been wanting to get a YouTube channel going for years, and I keep telling him, dude, you've got to get one going, because he's always out there having all kinds of adventures. He even had an off-grid house that was all set up with, you know, solar and all kinds of cool stuff like that. But he hasn't really started filming too much. So my plan is sell that trophy truck to him, have him finish the metal fabrication and then the suspension, because the suspension will take a while to get dialed in. It's not something that can be done over a weekend. It's something that you need to adjust it, get the coils, get the preload, get the valving just right, take it out the next weekend, try it again, try and get it all set up. It's gonna take multiple trips over multiple weekends, and he's the guy that I think can do that. Then once it's all dialed in, there's nobody that I know that's a better off-road driver than him, and he will go out there and he will beat the living hell out of it and kind of see where its breaking point is. So what I'm hoping is you guys in the comments below will say, yes, Jeff, start your channel, please, come on. And then that'll encourage him to get this channel going, and hopefully we can then throw a few subscribers his way, and then he can start off by getting the trophy truck going and then also following his racing series with that Volkswagen Beetle. Other than having Jeff finish it, I'm not really sure what my other options are for it. I could sell it. I don't love the idea of selling it to somebody that I don't know, because I really want to see it finished with those last little bits dialed in. And I wanted to jump this thing. That was my whole goal. I wanted to set up a ramp and I wanted to just launch the living hell out of this thing. And I never got a chance to do that. And I know that Jeff can. And if he has it, I know that when I fly back to the valley, then I can take it out and beat it up too. So that's my best bet. Let me know what you guys think there. If anybody buys any of these vehicles and they have a YouTube channel, I'll pass that information on to you so that you can follow along with it. I'll be following along right with you. I would love to see some of these vehicles get built. Specifically the 55 Ford and the 1930 Model A. Those are the ones that I would most like to see get built. Alright guys, so let's talk about why I'm moving and what to expect from this channel in the future. Now starting off with the channel, I am going to continue to finish the 1979 F350 build. It's about 70% done. It's farther along, I think, than it appears because I finally have all the parts sourced and it's just a matter of putting it together, and that's pretty straightforward. Now, why am I leaving? Now most of you are familiar with Power Nation. They've been producing awesome automotive content for over 20 years. They're located in Franklin, Tennessee. They offered me a job. I was not expecting to take that job, but I flew out there and I met with them, and honestly, it's a dream job for me. It's going to give me the opportunity to do a lot of things that I can't do on my own. And there's an old saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I'm finally able to go farther together, and I just couldn't pass it up. Now, there's nothing more that I'm really allowed to tell you guys right now. As soon as I'm able to, I'll pass on more information, but you'll be seeing more of me, so that's pretty cool. And I finally got some opportunities that I wouldn't otherwise have, and quite frankly, it's going to be a fun move for the whole family because it is really hot in Phoenix, and we are looking forward to having seasons for once, because Arizona seasons, they go kind of like this: hot, unbearably hot, oh dear God, I'm on fire. That's the 3 seasons that you get. Even I can't tell you the last Christmas that I even wore pants on. It's shorts weather until January, and I think it snowed once in Phoenix in my life, in Phoenix proper. I think 2 years ago it snowed a little bit on the outskirts, like in the desert area, but that's it. So finally looking forward to just a nice little change of pace. Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you want the links to the eBay ads, check the description below. It looks like I'm going to be eBaying the Model A, the F100, the Citroen, and the International Metro. The Grumman is going to be a first come first serve. We're asking $5,000, whatever the best offer is. Shoot that to my email, acthecarguy@gmail. Same goes for the International Scout 80. That's going to be $1,000, first come first serve. Let me know. And then same with the inflatable paint booth, AC the Car Guy, and then I think that's it. Everything else is going to be on eBay. Any questions, check the descriptions or just email me, AC the Car Guy. See you guys next week.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Bye-bye.